Hello and welcome to Two Profs and a Pod. My name is Tanisha.
I'm Beth.
And we are professors here at Glendale Community College in Arizona and also faculty developers. So we're really excited for today because we have a special edition, special episode for our listeners today. We are doing our first interview with one of the most important people on our campus. One of the linchpins, you might say, here at Glendale Community College in Arizona. We have with us here the president of our college, Terry Leyba Ruiz. Did I say that right?
Yes, you did.
Miss Terry Leyba Ruiz, and we are so excited to have her here. So welcome here.
Thank you.
We're going to have her introduce herself, and then we're just going to kind of move forward with the interview. So first and foremost, thank you so much for being here today. We are so excited for you to be our first interview. So thank you for taking the time out of your busy day.
My pleasure.
Yeah. So go ahead. Just tell the listeners about who you are and what you do.
Great. Thank you. Well, I'm excited to be here, and this is a fun activity you guys do and a great way to engage with our community. So I am Terry Leyba Ruiz. I'm the proud new president of Glendale Community College. I served as your interim for 2 years, and that was fun. And going through the very rigorous process, I'm glad I came out on the other side as your permanent president. So you're stuck with me now.
Yeah.
So, which is not a bad thing. We are, thank you for sticking with us.
But I'm an educator. At the heart of who I am, I'm a teacher. And I taught math for 23 years. I started in junior high, I taught high school, and I taught math at South Mountain Community College for 16 years. And along the way, I decided that I wanted to be a president. Back in 2000, in 2000, I decided I wanted to be a president, and I was a teacher in the classroom at South Mountain. So it's a long road from 2000 to 2016, being different positions and deans and department chairs and different things along the way. But at the heart of who I am, I'm a teacher.
Great. I think that's one of the things I respect about administrators who
Absolutely.
Who were in the classroom for a while and not just jumping out immediately. And it
Yes.
seems like you spent a lot of years there, so you really
23
get
years.
it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I think it helps with perspective as well because you've been in that role as faculty, now administrator. I think it's awesome.
Yeah.
So
Great.
all right. Well, thank you so much. So we're going to move on to our first question. So in our first episode 1, if you've been listening to us for a little while, we actually talked about inspiration. So my question for you, Terry, is what inspires you?
Our students inspire me. Our students are so amazing. Every chance I get, I like to engage with our students. And I don't tell them who I am right away because I don't want who I am as their president to influence what our conversation is. So it's just sidewalk conversations and who are they and what are they studying. And their stories are incredible. And the hardships that they go through just to come here, to be a student at GCC are amazing. And all I can think of is, in spite of all of these problems, we have single parents working 2 jobs, taking 2 classes, trying to get ahead for their families. And we have the student fresh out of high school who's not quite sure what they want to do and trying to find their way. And then we have the returning retired adult who takes the same ceramics class for 6 semesters in a row because they just love ceramics, producing incredible, beautiful art. So we serve our community, and our students have amazing stories, each of them so different, and each of them with a desire to get an education. So to have a chance at something different in life, that inspires me.
That's awesome.
I like that. I think that's a good, remember at the end of the episode, we always talk about how do we do the thing that we're talking about. And so get up, walk out of the office, go talk to somebody.
Right. And I emphasize that to my students a lot as well. And I mean, I'm a communication teacher, so I'm always encouraging my students just talk to somebody, interact with people, because you never know what stories you might come across. So my next question actually for you is there like a specific story that you can think of that comes to mind that you kind of like think about, that you're like, wow, that person is just like a glowing example of
there's so many of them.
I know it's kind of hard.
No. There's so many. I could talk all day about this.
Yeah.
We have our students. So I taught math, right? And I had a student in my college algebra class who didn't have the algebraic background to be successful in that class, and he is an admitted felon. He told the whole class that it was either come to school or something else, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So we were working on a really hard algebraic problem, And I always taught my students that there's 3 ways you can solve any problem. You can solve it algebraically, the traditional way. You can graph it, or you could look at it numerically. And any way you choose to solve it, you should always double check it with another way. So the students are working in groups, they're working on this really hard problem. They all think they got the right answer. And then Michael, my admitted felon, says, you all got the wrong answer. He says, there's no solution. So I said, Michael, can you come up and show the class what you're thinking? And he comes up and he displays this beautiful graph and shows why there's no solution to this really hard problem. And the class clapped for Michael.
Wow.
Yeah, it was incredible, because here's a gentleman who didn't have the traditional academic background to be successful in a traditional kind of way that we expect to measure students, but he was solid. He listened, he paid attention, he could contribute.
Yeah.
He was a valuable part of our class. And when the students acknowledged him, it was talk about validation.
Right.
Right?
Right.
He's one of many. We have students, our own, ASG president from last year, she was homeless. And now she's moving on to ASU to become an English teacher. Students, that's why we have a food pantry now, because we know our students are hungry. And that's the reality, is that they're hungry, and they're hungry not only for nourishment and food, but they're hungry for an education. So, lots of amazing
great
stuff.
Yeah, that's great.
Isn't it?
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you for sharing that. All right, so next question: what is your vision for the students at GCC? And I have to say, I'm really excited for this next question, because Terry brought materials, and I am a fan of people who bring materials, because I am a nerd. You know, from the first episode, I brought books because I wanted to make sure I was ready to go, and Terry is ready to go to really talk about her vision for the students at GCC. And I'm really excited to hear about it, especially since you brought materials to our session as well. I'm really looking forward to hear your answer.
Okay, well, here we go. So my vision for our students, there's lots of components to this. First of all, when our students walk onto our campus, I want them to know that they belong here, that this is their place, that this isn't just Glendale Community College, this is their college. This is where they belong. And what is it we can do to help make our students feel that they belong? And that sense of belonging is actually a theory. Belonging is theory. And I want our students, when they walk on a campus, every interaction that they have, from the custodian, the groundskeeper, to the frontline staff in our enrollment center, to our amazing faculty in the classroom, that every step along the way, the students feel, yep, this is where they belong. And this is where they're going to come to make a difference in their life. And not just, come for a couple of years or come for one class, but they're going to go away and then come back. Because every student will need to have that sense of lifelong learning, which is what my book is all about.
Yes.
This book, so in a nutshell, I want our students to be robot-proof. And I say robot-proof. It's actually a book. You can Google it. Robot-proof, Higher Education in the Age of Artificial Intelligence, written by Joseph Aoun, A-O-U-N. He's the president at Northeastern University. His book is all about how do we prepare our students to have gainful employment in an age where artificial intelligence is our future. Right now, if we look at we're preparing our students for jobs and great jobs. Our students can come out and they can choose a certificate, an associate's degree, hit the workforce right away, or transfer to a university and get a 4-year degree. And that's wonderful, and that's our mission. But the reality is the world is changing. And as the world changes, if we as educators do not change along with the rest of the world, then 1, we're not doing our job, we're not preparing students for their future, and 2, we will become obsolete. Higher education as we know it will become obsolete unless we move forward with it. So what does this mean? So the premise is that we need to teach our students to be adaptive and flexible and creative and innovative. So how do we teach that skill set in addition to teaching all the facts and things that we just need our students to know how to do or to know? And that the premise is teaching our students, there's a great quote in here. We need to ensure that graduates are robot-proof in the workplace. Institutions of higher learning will have to rebalance their curricula. So I leave it to our experts in the classroom, you two profs in a pod, to help us define what does that mean to rebalance our curricula. There's, let me see, things like critical thinking, which instills a habit of disciplined, rational analysis and judgment. So this idea that if we can teach our students humanics, and humanics is what the professor or the president is saying is what's needed. We need data literacy, technology literacy, and human literacy. That the thing that computers cannot do, computers cannot create, computers cannot be innovative. Computers are great at taking, mounds of data and sifting it down into something that's recognizable. So a couple of examples. There's a computer called Watson, and Watson was fed all of this information about cancer. So within Watson lives all this cancer information and case studies and research. So as a doctor can go and has to ask the right questions. You have to know what questions to ask. Feeds it into Watson and said, here's what can come out. So I have a patient, they're exhibiting these signs and symptoms, and here's some of their data surrounding this patient. And Watson will come back with some possible diagnoses that the doctor then has to research and go down those paths of trying to find a cure for their patient. So the idea is that any work that's right now can be automated will be automated away by computers, by artificial intelligence. We see this even at, I was at Panera the other day. Panera, the restaurant. And you don't even have to talk to somebody to put in your order. You just go to the little computer and type in what you want, and then somebody makes it. So I don't know if a robot will eventually make that, right? So the things that we relied on humans to do will no longer happen. Oh, Wall Street was another great example. We had, Wall Street was filled with analysts and what are those people that buy and sell stocks? Stock traders. Traders. That's going away. Those jobs are going away, and those are jobs that we trained our students to do, right?
Right.
Those are highly paid, lucrative jobs.
Right.
Those jobs are going away.
Right.
So what jobs will be left? Well, that's the question. We don't know.
Yeah.
But the future will mean we'll have a human professional working alongside a smart machine. Now, the data geeks are students who love to program. Those students have an edge. And that's, I think, the technology literacy. So you have to have data literacy, technology literacy, but the most important element is our human literacy.
Right.
Our ability as humans to adapt, to work as a group, to be innovative is something that a computer cannot do.
Right.
And so that is something that I want for our students. I want our students to know what the future holds. And so I challenge all of GCC to think about not the present here and now. And I know that when my many years in the classroom, I was so focused on my amazing students that I had in my class. That's all I cared about, is these students right here, right now, and getting through all the stuff I needed to teach them and build in them and build confidence in them. And then semester ended and shoom, out they went, and in came a new batch.
Right.
We need to think beyond that.
Yeah.
We need to think beyond just the semester, just the year. But how do we really prepare our students for what comes next? Which means, how do we prepare each other? How do we prepare our faculty? The magic happens in the classroom.
Right.
How do we prepare for that? And that's hard work. That's where I think our faculty who are, your content experts, but you're also, expert educators. So now how do you look to the future, knowing that we have to teach our students to be more critical thinkers, to be able to work as a team, to be able to articulate what their answers are, and to present their answers, and to research what they're presenting.
Right.
How do we build those skills? I think that's our future. I need that for our students. I need that for our faculty. And it's not just our faculty, it's all of our staff as well, because our work will be different.
Right.
Our work will be different. Either adapt or retire. I don't know.
Right. But it's very true, though. Everything you said is very true, especially like in the classroom, right? especially having to kind of adapt and restructure and really rethink who our students are of today and what they need. So like, for example, that means really rethinking curriculum design and development, and then also instructional design and development as well. And I think also taking teaching and learning to a deeper level.
Yes.
I think we definitely have an understanding, I think, of the lower order thinking skills,
Sure.
right? Rote memorization, right? Take a test, take a quiz. But do our students have the ability to know the why? Like
Right.
when you talked about Michael in your story, it was one of the things that stuck out to me is that Michael not only did the problem, but he knew the why, right? So that means that there was critical thinking involved with the process itself and really having a deeper level of thinking. I think that's really what our students need, because I've kind of noticed that I think some of our students really kind of struggle in that area. I think it's really exciting to hear about like artificial intelligence and how artificial intelligence can be used as like a tool, right, in the classroom to help with some of those, maybe the time that we take to do some of the lower order thinking stuff,
Right.
to give us more time to do a lot of the higher order thinking pieces, so they can really complement each other.
You're absolutely right. In fact, I was looking for, I was on YouTube looking for videos to help bring this message home. And there's a great video by Sal Khan, the creator of the Khan Academy. And it's like education predictions for 2060. So 50 years in the future. I guess it's a 2010 video. 50 years in the future. And he's talking about how, you know, in the past, the workforce really focused on the labor. There were a lot of people doing labor because we were doing things by hand.
Right.
And very few people were the educated people. And very few people, on top of that, were the innovators. But as artificial intelligence takes over, I mean, we see it already with tractors, right? And we're not in the fields anymore. We have tractors that do this work for us.
Right.
We don't wash clothes by hand, thank goodness. We have a machine that does this, right? So it frees up our time, exactly what you're saying, Tanisha. It frees up our time to think, to be creative.
Yes.
And so Sal Khan's premise is that in the year, he says it'll happen before 2060, is that machines and everything will take over all of our labor, even all of the stuff that we think, like the knowledge economy stuff that we currently are training students to be right now, researchers and analyzers, all that'll be gone. But that means it'll free up lots of time for us to be creative and innovative. And I don't just mean like, you know, in the STEM fields. I think students who have a STEM background right now are very lucrative and competitive and in high demand. But I'm also talking about the arts.
Yes,
exactly.
the arts.
Music.
Yes.
You know, can you create something of beauty that we all value? You know, there's going to be a lot more time to be creative. I'm waiting for the day that a robot will clean my house for me.
Yeah, that would be nice. Free up more time to just sit,
Right? To
daydream,
think and read.
watch Netflix, you know, all of that. If Netflix is still around, it could be something else.
Right?
Yeah.
But yeah, absolutely.
I think from a faculty perspective, to make this shift, it's so hard right now to think about what the future will be like,
Right.
and to kind of envision that. And then if we could do that, if we could envision that, then we could maybe start thinking about, okay, how can I change my classroom to help with whatever that's going to be?
Right.
And so I think there's a gap.
There is.
In like, we can't even imagine, and we need help being able to imagine what could be.
Right.
Right?
And I think that's a hard part because nobody has that crystal ball that will tell you, here's what will be. Like specifically, like the book even talks about, we don't know what those jobs are going to be, but we know what skill set you will need.
Right.
You will need critical thinking.
Yes.
You will need an ability to communicate, Tanisha. So teach those communication classes.
Yes.
Right? But even in your communication classes, being able to, like everything you just described,
Right.
you know, what's your opinion, the why, and coming back to being able to articulate our solutions and the things that we've discovered along the way. So there's some critical skill sets that I think we can all learn to embed. And when I think back over my 23 years in the classroom, the way I taught as a first year teacher was very different than where I ended up teaching 23 years later. Because of technology, for one thing, you know, everybody having a graphic calculator was just an expectation.
Right.
But also in how I would create activities that force students to work together, to collaborate, to articulate. It's not enough anymore just to be able to solve an equation and say x equals 5 and move on. No. X equals 5, what is it? So developing equations, solving equations, predicting the future based off of that equation and articulating what that means. Right. I believe those are skills that we can find ways to embed into whatever disciplines. But this is where I think we have to be very supportive of our faculty. Right. Because it's a bit scary, right? You're thinking, how do I do this? I don't know. I've never done it this way.
Wrong,
right?
Or maybe I've already screwed everybody up.
No. Because we're all learning together.
Yeah.
And so there are no ways that, I think as long as we keep trying new things in the classroom and, that didn't work, let's try it a different way. Right. We're learning, we're moving forward. But we have to keep moving forward and challenging each other and encouraging each other, supporting each other, and learning.
Thank you so much for joining us for part 1 of our interview with Dr. Terry Leyba Ruiz. We really enjoyed having her here. We hope that you will join us for part 2 of the interview as it continues.